Hi, folks. This is Mr. Wallace. I am also Robert Wallace for all you adults out there. I call myself Mr. Wallace because I also teach in school and also I teach driver's education online. But today you have visited my vlog, right? So we are talking about flights and flights specifically overseas to Europe from New York. And today we're talking about Scandinavian Airlines. And some of the interesting things about Scandinavian Airlines are these. Uh, SAS typically offers the cheapest flight from where I want to go, which is from New York City over to Rome, Italy, to visit my folks who live in Siena, Italy. Um, it's been the second year in a row where Scandinavian Airlines has won the day as far as the cheapest flights there. And with that, um, there's our previous video, our previous vlog where I showed folks how to search for the cheapest flights available using search engines, and then doing what I'm about to do now, which is to purchase the ticket directly with the carrier, right? And there's a lot of reasons why we want to do that. And that's where we are right now. We're with the carrier. We found Scandinavian Airlines had the best deal out there in Expedia and Kayak and all the other search engines. And so the question is, why would it be better for us to purchase this ticket directly with the carrier rather than a third party vendor? And the answer is this. Look, if everything goes according to plan, it's no big deal. You can buy it through a third party vendor and you'll be absolutely fine. However, we all know that it rarely goes without a hitch, right, in the airline industry, right? And when there is some type of interruption in our travel, right? We call this an IROP in the airline industry. If there's an interruption in our itinerary for whatever the reason, either it's on the passenger side or it's on the airline side, or if it's an act of God, right? So like maybe weather, for example, uh, it's going to be a lot easier. If you purchase this ticket through the carrier itself, it will be so much easier for that ticket agent, that gate agent, or that reservations agent that you're going to call to resolve your issue. Okay, it's just that much easier. They have a lot more leash, so to speak, by their company to solve the problem for you. Okay, also keep in mind, if you purchase your ticket through a third party vendor and you're looking for the cheapest ticket, like I would be as a teacher, right? So I've got more time than I have money, so I'm usually looking for the cheapest ticket, and I'll kind of pay, so to speak, with time, right? Uh, that means you're purchasing the absolute cheapest ticket and the cheapest fare possible when you purchase a ticket through a third party vendor, which gives you very little leeway when it comes to getting onto a different flight should there have been an interruption in your travel. Okay, regardless if it's an act of God, if it's the problem caused by the airline itself, or you did it, right? Maybe you had a flat tire and made you arrive late to the airport. Whatever the case may be, chances are you're going to get on that next available flight a lot easier if you purchase the ticket through the carrier itself. Okay. So today's episode, so to speak, is about the Scandinavian Airlines hacks, right? So I wound up calling up the Scandinavian Airlines reservation desk because I had questions about this ticket, right? And so let's go to the ticket itself and see what we're looking at, right? So we're flying from New York to Rome, right? And so you can see in here the what I did search for already, right? So I put an NYC here, and I know that New York City uh, is serviced by SAS or Scandinavian Airlines from Newark, from Liberty Newark International Airport. This is EWR. If you are in the industry, you're going to be familiar with the airport codes, and that's the three-letter codes that you have for different airports. EWR is the one for Newark. So I'm actually just gonna hit an EWR because I know which one it is, right? So EWR, and I'm going to go to Rome FCO. That's the airport code for Fiumicino Airport. So we can even see it in here. If I just put in Rome, for example, you would see Fiumicino here, which is FCO, right? And that's where I'm headed. And I'm flying with my wife, right, with Mrs. Wallace, and we're going to be departing on the 8th. In fact, right, we're leaving on the 8th, and we are returning on the 15th. So outbound flights, it's a little, every airline's website looks a little strange. This is how theirs looks here. So we're departing, our outbound flight is on the 8th, and we are returning on the 15th, right? So those are already in there. And I'm just going to take a look at points because I do have points. I just want to see what these would look like if I put them in. So let's just search for points real quick, and then I'm going to go back to dollars in just a second. Pay with points. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, okay, 71,210 points, and I don't know what this means. I guess that means that this is for the entire trip. And I'm just going to take a look in my app real quick on my phone. By the way, I strongly recommend that you download the app for whichever airline you're going to be flying on. Download the app because then you're going to be able to check in for your airline over your phone, right? And they're going to produce for you your boarding pass right on your phone itself. All right, and it's going to save you a lot of hassle rather than some other version, right? So, just going to take a look here. Go back to my app itself. Yep, I am in my app. Let me see, SAS Home, me. Okay, so I only have 1,700 points to use, right? So I'm I'm way off as far as points are concerned. So that's not going to be an issue for me. Let me just take a look at one more thing real quick before we continue along. So let me do this. Flights are in here. Let's take a look at dollars. Here we go. Yep, we'll go dollars. I thought there was something that said like points in dollars. I just wanted to see if somehow I could use up the points I already have. Doesn't look like it, guys. You can see here, guys, we got an excellent deal on our outbound of $288.90. That is one way. That's for our outbound flight to Rome. Okay, it's gonna be a little more expensive returning, but not too much more. So we're looking at a really good ticket here. Okay, in my estimation, really anything under $800 is a really good deal for an international flight. Anything under 800 is great. Anything under 700 is wonderful. Okay, if it's under 700 and you're willing to deal with whatever hassle they present, I would go with that 700 or 600 plus dollar ticket. I really would. If you got the time and you can deal with the hassle. Okay, so here's where we are. We're right here with this $288 and 90-cent ticket. I want to present to you a couple, what this really looks like to you if you're going to buy a ticket on Scandinavian Airlines, right? So we have all these options available to us, and they have these three different fares, which is Go, and then Plus, and then Business, right? And so you can see a difference real quick in Go versus Plus versus Business. So Go is very limited, and I'm going to show you. There's even different classes within Go. But if we look at something, let's compare Go with Business, right? And so I've never paid for a ticket in business class. I've flown business class a multitude of times, much more than I can count on my two hands. And it's a pleasure to fly business, especially flying against time, right? That means to the east, to Europe, so you can sleep over the night and you wake up refreshed. It's a fantastic experience, and the reason why I like it is because of this, right? This is the flat bed. Your seat folds out into a bed, and you can sleep through the night. Okay, obviously in the Go, it's something you can't do. Okay, now Mrs. Wallace and I are completely trained in not packing in checking suitcases, right? Instead, we just use our rollerboard carry-on bag, and we'll have like a small carry-on and then our rollerboard as well. And that's what we've trained ourselves to do in order to not have to check in a bag. Okay, because checking bags, one, costs money, and two, they get lost. So that's the reason why we do it. We'll check a bag. We might purchase a bag on the return, purchase a suitcase someplace, and then check it through, because eventually they do get returned to you. And so, if it comes back a month later, who cares, right? But I've been forced to check a bag over to Europe before, and it got lost. And it was horrible to spend all of Christmas basically with one set of clothes, the clothes that I wore when I flew over there, right? So I don't recommend ever, packing so much that you have to actually check a bag. I think that's a foolish thing to do. All right, it does include basic stuff, right? You can bring in your carry-on, and you can bring your uh, it does allow you, no, this light, which is what we're going to be doing, does not allow for a check bag, which is absolutely fine by us. You get a standard seat, right? You're not going to get the flatbed. You get your meal, right? You don't get Wi-Fi. You get a power outlet. You get, you get your little TV, and that's about all you get, right? All this stuff you get if you are purchasing a business class ticket. Okay. Okay, let's go back to our tickets, though, to our options available here, right? This is much more important to us, I think, than comparing these different fares, right? And that's going to be for another video. Okay, so again, we're going to our cheapest fare, but just take a look at what we have on offer, right? So we have this EWR, which stands for Liberty, Newark Liberty Airport. FCO stands for Rome, right? Rome Fiumicino Airport. And then we can see the CPH in the middle, which stands for Copenhagen, right? That's the Copenhagen Airport. And if you highlight it, it will show Copenhagen, and it will show you the amount of time in layover that you have at that airport, right? So 50-minute layover right there. Now, if we even click on the I for information, it will give us basic information about the flight. So, for example, it's leaving at 17:35. Subtract 12 for that, and then you get the time in a 12-hour clock, right? So that's 5:35, and it arrives in the morning at 10:35. That's why there's nothing like bigger than 12. You just keep the regular time, and then excuse me. I'm not quite sure what this. Yeah. Okay, so it includes one stop, and it's 11-hour total flight time and I think 11-hour total time to fly to Rome. Right, pretty good. However, think about this. Right, we're flying at 5:35 in the afternoon. We arrive at 7:10 in the morning, and then there's a 50-minute layover. Right, where you have to get off your airplane. Uh, right, and if you're in the back, like I will be, it's going to take a while just to get off the airplane itself. I would say probably around, if it arrives exactly on time and opens the door directly at 7:10 a.m. in the morning, it's probably going to take you around 15 minutes minimum to get off the airplane, right? So now we're putting ourselves at 7:25, and then we have to get through. Um, we have to get through some type of immigration service, right? They're going to have to check your passport. They're not going to send you on your way. That's going to be that point will be there at the airport, and that's going to take up the rest of your time to do that. You're not going to make your 8 o'clock flight. I'm quite positive about that. Anyway, maybe you will, and then you connect and get out. You get on your flight, departs at 8 o'clock, arrives at 10:30 a.m. In Rome, and there you go. Okay, that's not what we're looking at anyway. We're looking at the cheapest flight down here, and let's just take a look at it and see what's going on here. Right now, we have these gaps in this blue line here, right? One says ARN and the other one says CPH, right? So here's what we're looking at as far as our gap is concerned. I'm going to just hit the I here so you get a better idea. And this is kind of the Scandinavian Airlines hack and how you familiarize yourself with this airline and their website, right? So the total time, right, is 20 hours, 40 minutes. There are going to be two stops here. It's not for the week at heart. We're leaving at 5:20 a.m. or p.m. rather, out of Liberty, Newark. And we are flying all the way till 7:15, and we're arriving in Stockholm, right? That's ARN. That's the airport code, and that's for Arlanda, which is the little town that's around 20-30 minutes outside of Stockholm. You have to pay a lot of money, and you take a train into Stockholm and see all the sights, and then fly, and then take the train back to the airport for the next flight. If you like to do that, if you want to see something of Stockholm for this layover of 8 hours and 5 minutes. We did that last time we flew in April last year in 2022. I'm not sure if Mrs. Wallace wants to do that again. I think she does. So we'll probably go and pay a lot of money and get on that train again and go check out the sights in Stockholm and hope the weather will be better this time around because it was really cold last time. Okay, and then we depart again at 3:20 in the afternoon. At 3:20 in the afternoon, arriving in not in Rome, but in Copenhagen, right? That's the CPH in Kastrup. That's the little town outside of Copenhagen where the airport is located. And we're going to be, again, we're going to have around a 55-minute layover. Now, that's not going to be so bad, right? We're flying on a smaller plane. Here's the equipment right here. It's an Airbus 320 Neo, right? Which holds, I think, around something like 180 people. I don't know, something like that. So it's not going to be nearly as big as a wide body plane that can hold up to 300 plus people. So it's going to be a lot faster to deboard from the airplane, usually around like 5 to 10 minutes. Again, it does tell you the names of your flights or the flight numbers, right? 904, 1407. And then the last one departs at 5:25. It's 2.5 hours long, departing from Terminal 3, right? Same terminal. So that's going to be important to recognize too for your hacks. You want to be departing from the same terminal. It's going to be a lot easier to do than if you have to change terminals, right? That takes time, right? And that's going to be flight 691, another Airbus A320 Neo, and we're arriving at 8 p.m. Into Rome, right, into their Terminal 3 there. Okay, we'll talk about how we get from Rome from Rome Fiumicino Airport to the main city of Rome in a different video, but this will suffice as far as how we get from New York City, from Newark to the Rome airport, right? And that's the one we want to take. So I'm going to select it. Okay. And then we're going to look at our different fare classes here. And the fare class that we're going to choose, right? These are all the different ones that are available in that Go fare class, right? We have Go Light, we have Go Smart, we have Go Pro, and then we have this Plus Smart. And they all are different prices, right? As we can see, it goes from 288 all the way up to 1,000, all the way up to 818, right? And these, of course, are not even your business class seats, right? So you're not getting like a flat bed or any of that type of thing. Okay, my suggestion is go the cheapest you can. Okay, make sure that you can do a carry-on. That's one other thing. SAS, if you fly overseas, guys, I think everything but Norse airline, maybe TAP, every other airline allows, it's included in the fare, a carry-on bag. Okay, so be wary of that. We don't want to be paying for a carry-on bag if we can help it. Okay. Okay. All these seats are rebookable, and they are rebookable for a fee. And the Light and the Smart, but the Pro and the Plus, yep, you have to pay a fee for the Plus. It is free in the Pro. That's one of the things I talked about with the flight attendant or the reservations person. But you can see the difference in price is quite astronomical. By the way, they do tell you how much it is to rebook your flight. It is $300 to rebook this flight. In either one of these three fares. This one's also here as well, right? So all this extra stuff is stuff I really don't care about. I don't care about any fast track. I don't care about using their lounge. I don't care about priority boarding. I don't really care that much about a spacious seat, and I'll explain that later on. And for about Scandinavian Airlines, uh, not too concerned about their three-course meal, and we don't drink alcohol, so it doesn't matter about drinks. And be careful with that because I don't know if that means one drink or if it means unlimited drinks. I'm just not sure. And I'm not really concerned about their Wi-Fi, mainly because, guys, my experience with Wi-Fi on planes is it's rather limited to begin with anyway. I've never been able to really stream with Wi-Fi on an airplane yet. And so instead of having Wi-Fi, I download anything that I either want to read or watch on my phone before prior to the flight. Right. In fact, I do it on my own Wi-Fi here in my own home, and I download Netflix and so on, stuff that I want to watch for my flight. So I'm totally ready to entertain myself for the flight. And also, guys, as you saw earlier, I think above, we have like they have those screens and they have free movies already that are going to be on offer for you in flight. So not much need on my side anyway for the Wi-Fi. Okay. Um, Real quick about fast track, I guess. So fast track is through the when you're checking. I'm sorry, not when you're checking in. When you're going through security, right? So there's going to be different lanes, right? So we know it here in the United States as, like, for example, TSA pre-check is a lane. That's a fast track lane. We also know clear is also a fast track lane, and then we have the regular lane, I guess. For everyone else when you go through security, right? So Mrs. Wallace and we already have TSA pre-check. I just got Mrs. Wallace TSA pre-check for her Christmas present. It only took around 7 days for them to process. And so she was able to fly back home from Houston with me, and go through the TSA pre-check line. And she noticed right away how much more pleasant it is, right? However, I wouldn't pay some exorbitant amount of money for that service, right? It's just not that important. Okay. When we are in Europe, we are going to be in the regular line, right? TSA pre-check does not count over there. Okay, so here's what I'm choosing right here, and we get 400 points, Euro points for it. I don't think I'm ever going to earn enough points to ever get a free ticket on SAS, but I don't know. Maybe there's something else I can buy with my points instead. Don't know. Okay. However, that's another hack I will say real quick. Uh, Regardless of whichever airline you're using when you fly anywhere, always one, download their app. Two, sign up for their points. Might as well start collecting points, right? Most airlines' points do roll over year after year after year, so they never expire. So you might as well start accumulating. You never know when they may actually turn into a free ticket, even if it's something very, very cheap. Okay, I like a very short trip from somewhere. Okay, on the return, let's take a look at what we have here. So we have a lot of stuff here, uh, and we can see that every single one of these returns includes two different stopovers, right? Two different layovers. One is a layover and one is a stopover. You're going to say, what's the difference between a layover and a stopover, Robert? And here's the answer. A layover is during the day, right? It's not going to be an overnight type of thing. A stopover is when you actually spend a time, at least one night at some place, right? So here's what we're looking at, and I'm going to show you the one that I know I want to do. So Mrs. Wallace doesn't really have a very high impression or opinion of Stockholm. She didn't like it last time we went there because she froze, and also the river was really rushing, and it was kind of scary for us to look down the bridge and look into the water, and it gave her nightmares later on. So she really doesn't like Stockholm. She didn't have a good experience there. It was long. The layover was crazy long, and it was just we were very, very tired. Okay, so however, on the return, we did a stopover in Oslo, and I intentionally extended our stopover so that we could spend a whole afternoon in town and then sleep overnight and then get to the airport and fly out the next day. And that's kind of what I want to do this time around as well. Okay, so I know what I'm trying to avoid ARN, right, Stockholm, and I'm trying to go towards Oslo, right? And I'm looking at this time because I want this time around, I know Mrs. Wallace can be happy sleeping overnight in Oslo, and I want to see Copenhagen. We haven't been there yet, and we don't have a long enough layover on the way over to see anything of it, but we will on the return, right? Take a look at this flight here. Sorry, I've got a cold here, guys, and I'm not shaking it in the wintertime, so this is just how I'm going to sound until probably until the spring, when everything kind of clears out of my head and I sound normal again. All right, so here's our departing flight out of Rome. It's leaving at 11:20. Good time, nice and easy to do. We don't have to be at the airport like crazy early in the morning. Flying out of Rome on flight 682. It's an Airbus A320 Neo. It's operated by their SAS Connect, which is probably a wholly owned subsidiary of Scandinavian Airlines. And it arrives into where are we going? To Copenhagen at 1:55, right? And then we have this 9 hour and 5 minute layover, right? Which is a little deceptive because it's not that long. All right. Our next flight is until 11 o'clock in the evening. However, let's consider this for a minute. How much time am I going to have to go see something in Copenhagen? Um, Remember, it's going to take time for us to deboard the flight and to leave the air, to lock up our luggage someplace in the airport and find the lockers, lock it up, figure out how to lock it up, and then take off on whatever train they've got to get us into town. Okay, that's probably going to take us, I want to say, probably around an hour and a half to 2 hours to get into town, right? So if we arrive at 2 p.m., I'm thinking we're probably going to arrive in town probably like around 4 o'clock p.m. Okay. And that's going to give us, and likewise, I want to be giving myself around a minimum of an hour and a half to take the train and then get ourselves back through security and into the airport and find our flight and all that stuff. I want to give myself at least 2 hours. So I want to be back at the airport by 9 p.m., right? For our 11 p.m. flight. So if we're arriving at 4, we're going back to the airport at 9. That gives us around 5 hours to go looking around Copenhagen. I bet you we'll probably leave back a little bit earlier than that. Okay. And that's going to be for another episode about, how I'm going to plan that all out. Okay. Anyway, we get into Oslo at 10 past midnight that night. All right. And that's no problem. Mrs. Wallace loves Oslo. She's going to be happy to spend the night there. I'm going to find a hotel somewhere near the airport. It's going to cost me probably around $100 to do that. We'll take a look at that today as well. And that's going to be, and then we're going to be getting to the airport probably 2 hours prior to departure time. That'll give Mrs. Wallace a little bit of time to go shopping around. She likes to do that. I know I'll be there. We'll be there with plenty of time. We don't need to worry about security too bad. And we'll be back in New York City, or at least in Newark at 1:15. And we're going to show you in a different video how do you get from Newark to Manhattan, right? And kind of planning that, right? There's other videos out there that will show you how to do it or what it looks like as you do it, but I'm going to show you how to plan for it. Okay. So let's these are the 2 flights that I'm taking. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm going to choose that one. Let's get that one there. Okay. And again, we're choosing the light one. We're going light. It's only 2 left. So I think this is Mr. Wallace has really got to like get down. Okay. So just taking a look at the whole price in this thing. It's looking for the 2 of us. Okay, I'm going to add the traveler information here. I'm going to do this on my own, guys. But a couple more hacks that I learned about this about SAS Scandinavian Airlines. I got a little cheat sheet here of stuff I wrote down. One thing is this, which the travel agent told me about, and we should be very careful about. She said, one, don't purchase your ticket with an Apple device. She said the system doesn't work well with it. So I'm not going to be using my phone to purchase this ticket, right? I'm not going to do it through the app. Instead, I'll do it online, and then the stuff will load into the app afterwards. I'm not worried about that. Okay. The second thing she said was, when you make your purchase, whatever you do, don't don't select your seats right away for this either. Let the purchase go through first, and then select your ticket or select your seats afterwards. And I asked her, well, do I even get to select my seats if I'm using that Go Light uh, fare class? And she said, no, not unless you pay for it. And it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. But I do recall being able to do that. And I asked her about that, and she said, yes, 30 hours prior to the departure time, you will be allowed to pre select your seat, right? Because Mrs. Walls prefers to sit next to me when we fly overseas, which is fine with me. Hey, I know we're going to get seats next to each other. I know this flight's not going to be that full. I've already done this flight before. It's not filling up. We'll get two seats together. Okay. For the flight between, I don't know, between Stockholm and Copenhagen, I don't know if we will or not, but it's a short flight. I don't care if we sit, if we don't sit next to each other for an hour and a half, I think we'll live, right? And likewise from wherever, from Copenhagen down to Rome, again, if we don't sit next to each other for 2 hours, I think we'll survive. Okay, so again, I wouldn't recommend paying money to be able to pre-select your seats and guarantee that you're sitting next to each other. I just don't see the value in that. Okay, maybe the long flight overseas, I get it, but not for 2 hours. Why pay like $30 a piece more for seats to just to guarantee you're going to sit next to each other when it's quite likely that you're going to sit next to each other anyway. I'll even give you this hack too, guys. As a former gate agent for Delta Airlines, when I saw two people that were traveling together on the same PNR, which means the same ticket package, so to speak, I would like we were trained to seat these people next to each other. If you could, right? If you couldn't, you couldn't. But you would try to seat them next to each other, and if you could see that they weren't going to be able to sit next to each other, oftentimes I would move someone out of a seat who was traveling on their own and put them into a better seat, and then put those two people together anyway, right? So one person sitting in the center seat, and then one person sitting at the window or the aisle. Okay, so chances are, guys, you're going to be seated rather next to each other anyway if you're traveling on the same PNR code. Okay, the same PNR ticket. We talked about rebooking already on Scandinavian Airlines for the Go Light fare class. It does cost $300 to rebook. So once you purchase that ticket, there is no going back. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. A couple other things to consider for us when we do this is this. So for us, we have to get ourselves from Utica, New York, down to New York City, right? And that's going to be for another episode. But in the short, in the summary of it, though, it's going to cost us money to get ourselves down to New York City, or it's going to cost me points, one or the other. And my plan is it's going to cost me points or money this time around, and we're going to take Amtrak. It's like $50 a person to go down, so it's going to be $400, right? $200 rather, for us to get down to New York City and back on Amtrak. And then we're going to also have to take a train from JFK. I'm sorry, from Grand Central or from Penn Station. That's where we'll be arriving in Penn Station to get to Newark Liberty Airport. That's, I think, around $11 each way, I believe. So that could be as much as $44 as well. And this also, if we do this overnight, and I think we will, because I don't know, we like New York City quite a bit. Then I've also got to calculate, a place to stay overnight, which is probably another $200. So we're adding on quite a bit of extra money at this point, probably around $400 in total. for that for taking Scandinavian Airlines, but still, I think it's still cheaper than anything else we saw, right? Um, I didn't really. I know I looked for stuff out of Syracuse, New York, and I didn't see anything for less than around. Well, I almost want to say $1,500. So we're still much, 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 much cheaper going on Scandinavian Airlines than anything else. Okay. All right, guys, that is it for Scandinavian Airlines. I'm going to give you one more episode about Scandinavian Airlines and the little hacks that I learned uh, on in flight. And there were quite a few of them. So please do look out for that video as well. It's certainly worth watching, especially if you decide that you are going to purchase a ticket on Scandinavian. Uh, and I'll tell you all about the customer service that I experienced there, as well as the special little hacks that I learned to make it feel as close to a business class experience as I possibly could. And I got pretty close. All right, guys, that's it for today. Take care and safe travel.